Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk. And today we're going to review week 6, which was an insane week of football with 3 overtime games, Maddie.
What an incredible week of football. And both of our teams involved in those overtime stress fests as well.
Yes, and we'll start with the Minnesota Vikings, Skull Vikings. And I just have one question. Are you willing to admit it about Sam Darnold yet?
Yeah, I'm like not after just that game because there was periods where he looked good and periods where he looked absolutely garbage. But yeah, I mean, he put 28 points on a decent defense. I'm not going to completely throw him under the bus, but yeah, I admit he's not the best quarterback in the NFL.
If you take out that final drive, he had 120 yards on the game.
Yeah, but he did a good job in the final drive of the game, so you can't.
He did, and not to shit on him, but that was more of that stupid cover 3, cover 2 quarters playing prevent, which I've always said it, prevent defense only prevents you from winning.
I never understand if you're genuinely playing good D, then just keep playing good D. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. I understand maybe not doing what the Cowboys did straight after getting the Trayvon Diggs pick. And we're going to go get another pick and get 2 players trying to pick him off. But sending everybody back and then just allowing for garbage yards all the way through is a bit pointless. But yeah, Sam Darnold didn't have the best game. He just needs to stop throwing turnovers. He just needs to be more careful with the ball, and that's it. That's it.
For Vikings fans, we've all been shitting on Breeland for 6 weeks. And he comes up first play of the game, picks off Darnold, which was huge. But I think you know me well enough now, like when they score off of something like that or something big happens, it scares me because it's like so many times you watch a game and a team comes out and drives down the field, scores a touchdown, and then never scores again.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a scary thing. No, when you're a Cowboys fan, obviously, because all we do is score. But we just don't do the other part of it well. But I understand what you mean. You see it quite a lot where just you'll have one massive drive at the start of the game and then just have absolutely nothing else for the entirety of the game. What would upset me about that is the fact that Breeland has been absolutely garbage and then showed he was good. So what's he been doing the rest of the time? And maybe it's growth, but that's quick growth for me. So has he just been off the ball or did he play out of his skin yesterday? It's an interesting thing to do.
You know, when coaches talk, they're usually going to protect the player, but what they've been saying is it's that Zimmer system is completely different than what Breeland's used to, and he's just getting used to it and finally catching up.
I understand that. I understand the growth, but just such a quick difference from week to week is such a strange, like Antonio Brown looked great against the Eagles the other night and then looked shit against the Patriots again. Like, he's growing very slowly, but it's just interesting to see. But good win for the Vikings. Good.
And impressively, their offense looks great, even though I have a problem with the play calling because they come out and I literally can tell you how it goes. This is literally it. So first down, run to Cook. No, it's coming. Second down. He's run to Cook, gets to the line of scrimmage, dead. Because everybody knows it's coming. Screen, loses 3 yards, and then they're like, all right, Kirk, get us a 3rd and 13. It's like, come on, man. Every freaking drive, we know what the play calling is, and their offense is on fire. Why are you not just attacking at all times? Even with Dalvin Cook, you just attack. And I feel like a lot of times once they catch a lead, they get in this weird lull. Let's eat the clock. Let's feed Cook. Just keep doing what got you the lead.
What's the problem in the NFL with extending leads, beyond? This whole thing about running down the clock, it's like, yeah, great, run down the clock. I like it. But also, if you're just scoring on people for fun, then just run up the score.
Put your foot on their neck.
In soccer, I'm going to call it soccer for the context of this, but in soccer football, teams beat each other 8-0. They score 8 goals and you don't take your foot off the gas. You just don't do it. But in football, there's this weird thing where it's a bit sportsmanshipy and it's a bit we'll run off the clock because this is the way you're meant to win. this is the way you're meant to win. And it's like, just hammer them, just like blow somebody out, you know? I'm not sure whether that was the Vikings Panthers the other day, what entirely happened, but because the Panthers are a good football team, they could have just come from.
Yeah, the only thing that pisses me off is this is what happens with the Vikings. 1 week the defense lets you down. 1 week the special teams let you down, and I'm not the offense hasn't really let me down this year. Like they haven't been great in every game, but they haven't been awful in any game, right? So it's
Kirk
like
Cousins has been massive in the big spots where you've needed him.
If it wasn't for special teams, we win by 13, and I'm not even being funny because there was a block punt for a touchdown and 2 missed field goals.
Yeah, and it's unacceptable to lose that many points on special teams, really. It's impressive that they still managed to win the game after doing that, to be perfectly honest. But Kirk Cousins, in the 2 big drives that he's had this season, the big times where he's been needed, overtime against the Panthers, and then saving you guys against the Lions, he's been quality. He's been quality. I think Kirk Cousins is one of those quarterbacks where get him close in a game and he will take it for you. And maybe that's just this season. I haven't watched him enough through most of the season. But,
and to go on with your point, this isn't saying Kirk Cousins is like Tom Brady, but in Arizona, he brought him into the right where they needed to be to win the game. We miss a field goal. In Cincinnati, he's helping drive us right down the field, and the phantom Dalvin Cook fumble. It's like Kirk's been doing everything asked of him, even in the losses.
It's so like he's not a blow you away quarterback. Like I think that's what I've seen whilst watching Kirk Cousins.
He's going to put us in the same spot you guys were in 2 years ago because he's playing out of his mind. He's got 1 year left, and then it's going to be like, do we pay this guy $40+ million? It's going to be a weird thing, but I don't even want to think about that this year.
At least you've got Kellen Mond sitting behind him. I think we were just so screwed just because we had nothing behind him. But if Kellen Mond becomes the guy, then you're good. But I think Kirk Cousins won't blow a lot of teams away by himself. The Vikings as a team could blow people away if they actually played well. They could easily blow teams away.
And they can beat anybody. It just never happens.
Yeah, of course. But Kirk Cousins isn't going to be the reason that you blow people away. But also, he is the reason that you're going to win close games. Just experienced head, knows the game really well, and can make every throw in the book if he really wants to.
And just not to get too much on a tangent, but we get these you hear this all the time, and they're like, well, how do these quarterbacks seem to get better as they get older if they were bad? It's because they still have their physical ability and their mental game is above what it ever was. If you go back, Rich Gannon was better when he was old than young because that athletic ability stayed and his understanding of the game got better, where Tom Brady now is not the Tom Brady that won the first Super Bowl because he understands football.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the Bucs and Eagles in this video, really, just because everybody knew the Bucs were going to win. But he makes it look like it's getting easier for him. Tom Brady it's getting genuinely easier for him as he gets older, is how it looks. And yeah, it's almost wanting these mobile quarterbacks are going to be fantastic for 5 years, but the immobile quarterbacks are incredible for however long Tom Brady's played the game.
That's a good lead in, Maddie. Look at you all professional and shit, because speaking of mobile quarterbacks, what about that Ravens-Chargers game? Now, look, I expected the Ravens to probably win that game, but I did not expect them to win that game like that.
The Ravens winning that game the way that they did, that's a statement right there. And I think the Chargers have shown now how you beat them. They're like the Cowboys. They've got one weak spot which will stop them from winning the big thing. And that's they need a big, thick defensive lineman in the middle to stop the run. That's all they need to find now. And then they're good. But I can't explain the 6 points. I don't know what to say. I'm not surprised by the fact that the Ravens beat them up front, ran them down, and scored 34 points. But the fact that the Chargers only scored 6, I don't really know why that's happened. I don't get it.
I think they just hit a bad matchup in that Ravens defense. And they had a little bit of a bad day, all snowballed into taking a big ass whipping.
Yeah, I genuinely think the Baltimore crowd might have had something to do with it, and that can be the only explanation that I have, because usually it would be the Chargers have a shit offensive line, but actually they have a good offensive line this season. If you've watched their offensive line closely, they don't rank very high in PFF, and there's been a decent amount of pressures and stuff. But if you actually watch them, they're a good offensive line. They're a really, really solid O-line, and their draft pick, I can't remember who it is now. Is it Darisaw, or did he go to you?
No, that's the Vikings.
Slater, Rashawn Slater. He is built for the NFL. So I don't really know how to explain the 6 points, but the way to explain the 34 points are the Ravens offense is unbelievably difficult to stop, especially if you can't stop the run. And Lamar Jackson is an animal.
Monster. He's a monster. Well,
Absolutely.
Matty, what I got to say something about this Packer-Bears game off the bat. I keep seeing all of these Bears fans. The refs cost us the game. The refs did it on purpose. The refs cheat for Green Bay. Will you stop? The refs are just awful. They're not in there trying to decide the game or intentionally going, hey, we're going to help the Packers win. It's just if you watch the NFL for the last few years, they're awful.
Yeah. Watch any game in the NFL and you'll see some questionable refereeing, and I'm still not ever going to blame the referees for that until the NFL pay them until the NFL make them full-time employees of the NFL, where they can go to training all week and all year round they can improve their game, and they don't have to work other jobs, and they don't have to do that kind of stuff. If you want a professional refereeing team for your incredible sport, then just pay them the money. It's not like you don't make enough. Like, you're shipping all these shit games out to London and charging double the price for tickets. So you use that money to pay the referees, because it's enough for the referee's salary for a year. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a beast at Soldier Fields, and he eats the Bears up for lunch, and he actually owns them. So, yeah.
Well, this is saying it mildly, but anybody who watches this knows that I am not a big fan of Justin Fields. Not that I cheer against Justin Fields. I'm not a fan of him. But I think the Bears do this kid disservice. He's got zero weapons around him. He's running for his life. The play calling is just plain awful. And they're on their 112th string running back.
Yeah, honestly, I think Justin Fields is the only good player on that Chicago Bears offense at the minute. Because I had Jay in the off season, if you watched our draft stuff and all of that, you will have seen how me and Jay went to bat for and against Justin Fields a lot of the way through that. And I love Justin Fields, and I think he's still going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. The only way he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, though, is if the Bears get their ideas together, or he forces his way out of Chicago for 5 years' time with a fifth-year option, right? So that he needs to get out of that Bears organization, unless they're going to put weapons around him. There's a reason the Bears haven't had a good quarterback since, Jay Cutler's their argument for having a good quarterback since 2000, and he wasn't great. So the reason might be they don't build anything around those quarterbacks. Mitch Trubisky, when he came on for the Bills last week, the week before, when he came on for the Bills in a blowout against the Texans, he looked much better than he did at Chicago. I think it's Chicago and not their quarterback problem. That's the issue.
I said from the beginning, Nagy ruined Trubisky. I think he's going to ruin Fields. I think, and this is just me personally, they need a Greg Roman type offensive coordinator like you see with the Ravens, or like Greg Roman ran with Colin Kaepernick back in the day at the 49ers. This kid's so athletic. Get him outside. Let him use his athletic ability until he completely understands football. He's a rookie. I just think they're not doing the best service for the young quarterback.
And that would be complementary football for them as well, because their defense is strong. They have a good defense. They held them to 24 points. If you hold the Packers to 24 points, you're not doing badly. You should be in the game at least. But
if they had an offense, they win that game.
Yeah, exactly. And if the Bears played complementary football, they would be a good football team, but they don't. They try and do this crazy quarterback movement, but not movement, throwing downfield, but also playing dink and dunk. It's weird mixture of stuff that they've got going on. They don't really have an offensive identity at all. But if they just went, we're going to run the ball down your throat, which, as I understand it, is a very Chicago ethos to kind of go for, then it embodies the city. It belongs in Soldier Field. It's complementary football. Just find a way to run the fucking ball next season. This season, put Andy Dalton in and save Justin Fields.
I hate running your quarterback, but at this point, it's like do some RPOs and stuff with Justin Fields, because what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, with the running the quarterback, it depends who the quarterback is. Like, I'm not running Dak Prescott anymore after what happened with his leg, unless it's completely clear. Like, I'm not doing that.
But he can run. Your coach should not send him on a run.
Yeah, exactly. But if you don't run Kyler Murray, then you're doing Kyler Murray a disservice. If you don't run Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's like the size of a fucking linebacker, so he's going to be fine.
Oh, I got something to say about that, but we'll get to Josh Allen running in a little bit. So my last question is, though, what do you think? I think the Bears need to just do what they can this year, and then you just need to get offensive line and weapons around Fields, even if your defense falls off a little because you're not adding every year. You need to do something to that offense.
Yeah, I would find a way to change the run game entirely, because then they do have one weapon. They have Allen Robinson, who is a good wide receiver, but if he's your only weapon, then it's very difficult for a wide receiver to get out there. It's just they need to build up a slew of running backs like they do in the 49, like they do in San Francisco, like they have in Baltimore. Just build up loads of running backs and just completely change the way the offense goes. And then all you need to really do is find a number two. Like, imagine Juju Smith-Schuster at Chicago, something like that. And that would be great. And then your defense stays solid and you run the ball. And even if your defense falls off a little bit, if you're running the ball, then your defense doesn't have to be on the field as much. That's why the Ravens have been so successful this year. It's because their defense is never on the field, even though their defense is completely injured and fucked. Like, that's where, you know what I mean? Like, that's where they're kind of out with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to another team that just got the injury bug and can't stop, the Browns versus the Cardinals. And I'm not saying the Browns would have won that game, because the Cardinals are balling, undefeated. Let's get that out there, playing top notch. But the Browns looked awful. And just to give an example, so I have two fantasy football teams, our Yankee and the Brit League, and another one. In my fantasy football teams, in both of them, I have Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham, and I got Landry. All four of them have been injured at one point and on my IR. Like, what is my fantasy teams? I'm so lucky to be 4-2 because they are getting riddled with injuries, but the Browns are taking injuries like in the worst spots. Baker Mayfield has a torn whatever labrum. Then he dislocates his left shoulder again in the game. He's playing through injury. Both of his receivers are banged up. Both of their running backs are banged up. And the Browns played awful to go along with all the injuries. I don't think the Browns fans should be too nervous, because once their team gets healthy, but they better stop the slide of losses right now.
Yeah. From what I saw on Sunday, I would be seriously questioning paying Baker Mayfield.
Well, he's playing with a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, I know. I'm very aware. And I would like to obviously let him get fit before making that judgment, which is why you wouldn't pay him this year. You'd push it down the line another year.
Right, because this is his fourth year, right?
Yeah, he's still got another year.
So he's got his fifth year option.
But then you get into the Dak situation that happened as well. So, that, you know, they're going to pay him. I'm not saying they're not going to. But if you look at it this way, yes, they've had a lot of injuries. Odell Beckham's been injured, but Jarvis Landry was playing.
Yeah,
Jarvis
but
Landry's
then
been injured. But
you look
Beckham's
at your
playing.
team with two receivers, right? Amari,
right?
CD. Yeah, you get it.
That's fine. But Donovan Peoples-Jones is a fantastic receiver as well. Like, that's like Donovan. Yeah, I understand from the receiver point of view, but instead of 5 offensive linemen that have Pro Bowlers, they've only got 3 offensive linemen that are Pro Bowlers. That's the same as everybody else.
Were out. Yeah.
But like 3 Pro Bowlers in their offensive line, that's the same as the best teams in the NFL. They're 2 running backs. Well, they've not been both injured at the same time, so they've still got a star running back every single time. So I understand where they're at with the Browns. I totally get it. And when you prepare for one thing to have this star-studded team, then you can't be fully prepared to be without them and that kind of stuff. So I get why they're losing. I just losing by that big of a margin when you've still got a star-studded team. Like their team is still star-studded, but also they did have a lot of injuries on defense as well. So I'm gonna let the one against the Cardinals slide just because of how amazing the Cardinals are and Kyler Murray is. But I just want to say that Baker Mayfield should seriously be on notice because even with those injuries, he's still got the best offense, one of the best offenses in the league, and only scored 14 points. But I do also understand that he's injured. So it's when you compare him to Kyler Murray. That's what happened to him last week. He got compared to a guy that came out of the same school the year after him, the same draft pick, and it's difficult.
Well, the only pushback I have on the offensive line is they had 3 offensive linemen in the interior. Both tackles were out against that Arizona team. But I get what you're saying. But I think they should be resting Baker at this point too. But what do you do? Because you're still trying to make the playoffs and all that.
Who's
so that's
their backup quarterback?
I don't even know at this point. And then,
but like trade something.
Well, the only thing I keep saying too is for the Browns fans. So the Browns went from winning one game in 32 or something like that. How fast do you expect this turnaround? I think that the growth that Kevin Stefanski has brought in a couple of years is huge. And they're in this weird spot where they went from being complete jokes for 20 years to now having Super Bowl expectations. And I think that's I was there too. But the more I think about it, that's kind of unrealistic. 2 years.
It's like it's a huge growth. I totally agree with you. It would be interesting to see if they sat Baker Mayfield for a little bit and then traded for Andy Dolan. Like if the Bears have decided that.
How about sign Cam?
Yeah, sign Cam. That kind of player, like where they know what they're doing, and they like Andy Dolan and Cam are obviously 2 very different styles of player, but.
Same
they
idea,
both know what they're doing. It's the same idea. Like get somebody in who knows what they're doing until Baker's fit, and then we can assess Baker from there. I get what you mean about the expectations, but the NFL stands for not for long, which means this star-studded lineup is not going to stay together for very long. And I'm not as big on some people as Colin Cowherd is like, don't pay Baker Mayfield because he's got a star-studded team and no excuses. Baker Mayfield has legitimate excuses for why he got beat. Some of them being the Cardinals are really good.
I'm not really trying to defend Baker, but my question is, where do you go if you don't pay Baker? One idea did just pop into my head. Go trade for Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Even in the offseason, if you do not want to pay Baker, you better go get somebody like Jimmy G.
Yeah, Jimmy G. Who else is around the league?
How about your boy Sam Darnold might fit in over there because
Sam Darnold's a Panther now.
No, but listen, he'll take a lot of pressure off of them, and he's got a star-studded team. I just don't think you swap out Baker for Sam, but I'm just saying if Sam Darnold went there, that actually might be a place where he could sit behind somebody like Baker as a backup, and if Baker struggles, then you can throw him in. That's all.
Bring Tyrod Taylor back to Cleveland if they like that kind of play. Tua Tagovailoa goes to Cleveland. I actually don't think that's a terrible idea. I genuinely don't think Mitch Trubisky to Cleveland isn't a terrible idea. Tua Tagovailoa played well at the weekend. Like, Tua would be a good fit if the rumors are true that the Dolphins are going for Deshaun Watson, and then the Texans seem to like Davis Mills. So then that leaves Tua the odd one out in that place. Get him to the Browns. We're not saying that any of these guys are better than Baker, but it depends.
No. If they don't want to pay Baker 40 plus million. Right.
It's the money.
Well, I got one question for you though, Maddie. How about them boys?
How about them Cowboys? Honestly, what are they doing to me? It's insane. I'm impressed. It's a good win. What I'm not impressed with is number 52. And number 52, McGovern, got a bone to pick with you, sir. 110 yards in penalties. And I know it's not just on him, but he was around that area every single time. And it makes the win even more impressive. That is a game that the Cowboys lose a year ago. A year ago is a bit unfair because Dak was injured. 2 years ago, that is a game that the Cowboys lose badly. like 100 yard. The reason that they had 200 more yards than the New England offense is because they had to make up for 100 yards in penalties every single over the game as well. So they had to drive down the field one and a bit more times to get the same effort because of the amount of penalties that they gave up. It was ridiculous. But that offense is incredible. It can attack you in so many ways. And to dice up Bill Belichick like that, it's incredible. And the defense comes up big when it needs to come up big, but then it makes one stupid play in the game that we've already referenced, and that's the Trayvon Diggs gets an interception. Incredible. What incredible play. Great speed. And then the next play bites to go for the other interception, and Kazee goes for it as well. And I know it's Diggs' fault, but it's also Kazee's fault because Kazee's meant to be covering over the top, but they both just go for the ball. And
well, that's Diggs' problem this year is he gives up the big one, jumping on those picks. But for Cowboys fans, calm down. The kid will get it. He's still young.
He's got it.
He's being overly aggressive. He's just got to learn when to be overly aggressive and when to fall back. Where his problem is he's not so much taking into account what's going on in the game. He's just jumping routes where he'll get that. And he's still a top corner. So don't worry. He's just going to get better. 100%. I know I see Cowboys fans flooding the internet, though, all freaking out. He's going to learn. He's young. But my big problem, and I got to bring this up to you, is what the hell is Mike McCarthy? Okay, so first of all, I didn't get into the game till it was 7-7. So I had to go back after the Vikings overtime. I got into the game, and then I had to go back and watch what happened in the beginning. What the hell is Mike McCarthy doing? You're in your own freaking side of the ball.
Yeah. Like, you're playing against a rookie quarterback. I got it. Like, I would get it if it was going to be some...
came out of that, though.
Yeah, it shouldn't have even been a shootout game. Like, that was it shouldn't have been a shootout game.
What is he doing in the first half? Like going for it. Yeah, what's he going for it on fourth?
Exactly. If you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs and you know you can't stop them, then go for it. But apart from that, against a rookie quarterback, and I think most people in the nation kind of backed Zeke to get that, the way that he's been playing. But what's the point in risking it? You know, what's
that early?
Your defense is playing well. Your defense is playing well. We need to find out how good Mac Jones actually is, and you give him a 30-yard field to start off. Ridiculous.
And then, who the hell is top in his ear about clock management? Like, he's got some horrible clock management. And Boston Connor actually threw out the same idea that you threw out the day before him, is they better just get rid of Mike and keep Kellen Mond.
I hope everybody heard that I said that
you said it before, a day before.
I text Jay these ideas all the time when I'm watching the game, and then they come out in the media, and I'm convinced they're tapping our phones. I'm convinced. Basically the idea is that Kellen Mond, if all rumors are to be believed, is going to be a head coach elsewhere next season. Kellen Mond is a better asset for the Dallas Cowboys than Mike McCarthy. And I would leave it the same. Right, I would leave it exactly the same in an ideal world where Mike McCarthy has taken all the heat off Kellen Mond, making the big decisions because he's got experience. And it's in soccer, we have managers. You don't have to be coaches. You manage your coaches into being the right thing. You guys mainly have head coaches. So I would keep it as it is. But if the option is between Kellen Mond going head coaching somewhere else or getting rid of Mike McCarthy, or putting him in a director's role that I started talking to you about after, which is giving him a big paycheck to just get out of the way and maybe offer a helping hand every now and again, every time Kellen Mond needs somebody to go to, then just do that. Like, just get him out of the way because we're winning in spite of him at the moment. There are certain times where we are winning in spite of Mike McCarthy.
Well, maybe I owe Packer fans an apology, and maybe McCarthy was a bigger problem than I thought. But I will say, on to the New England portion of this, he's a rookie. Mac Jones impresses the shit out of me.
Mac Jones is going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. And with Josh McDaniel. Like, if you switch...
With Fields, a good coordinator.
Yeah, if you switch Fields and Jones around, then Jones would look like an absolute horror show. But in the system that he's in, they've drafted the perfect player for them. They really enjoyed that he fell to them there, and he's the right player for them with Josh McDaniels, very coachable. doesn't make too many mistakes. He has thrown an interception every game so far, but also he's a rookie.
I mean, he's all they really got, though. So, I mean, I'm not trying to give him a pass, but I'm kind of giving him a pass because
yeah,
he's
it's
a
like
rookie and it's all they got.
It's like if Myers snaffles that ball, yeah, that's true. that's true. They scored 29 points on a really good defense. Like the Cowboys are a legit defense this year. Just they give up a lot of yards and they give up a lot of points, but they also score a decent amount of points. Trayvon Diggs has the same amount of touchdowns as Stephon Diggs. I'm pretty sure, unless Stephon got 2 more. Yeah, they both got 2, right? And, like we're a high-scoring defense and we restrict them at the times that we need to. Dak Prescott, I just want to finish off on this with the Cowboys. Worth the money as far as I'm seeing so far this year. As far as I'm seeing this year, he is the guy. Now, that depends on how much the team now falls around him. Like if we're able to pay the players that we need to pay to keep them there.
Right.
But Dak Prescott is the guy, as far as I can see, who wins in those big games.
That was my caveat, but you hit it. I agree that he's worth the money this year. We'll just see what happens in contracts moving forward. But as long as that salary cap still keeps going up, they'll probably be okay. The last thing I'll say about this game, though, is I'm really afraid for you Cowboys fans that at some point McCarthy's coaching is going to hurt you in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm freaking out about. I would take if there's somebody in his ear about the clock management, what the hell is he doing?
Well, Shannon Sharp said there's one guy who follows you around telling you, Coach, we're going to take a timeout if we get this first down. Coach, we're going to do this. So who the hell is helping him too?
But then what's McCarthy doing? Because he's not doing the offense and he's not doing the defense.
No, that's what Shannon Sharp's point was, is that whereas John Harbaugh does the same thing, but at least he's a leader of men, where it doesn't seem that McCarthy's really a leader of men.
And John Harbaugh's an absolute wizard on the special teams is what I think they were saying that's what Shannon Sharp was saying, wasn't he? He was like, John Harbaugh, at least he's a wizard on special teams. But Mike McCarthy has been a good offensive coach.
Teams anymore. So but there's no way that McCarthy could be John Harbaugh because he's not the charisma. He's not friends with all of his players. He doesn't have the relationships where, as in John Harbaugh's greatest asset is he's a relationship builder.
Yeah, and I hesitate to slate Mike McCarthy too much. He's the coach of a 5-1 Dallas Cowboys team right now. Do you
almost feel like it's despite McCarthy, though?
I don't know. I imagine he's had a lot to do behind the scenes.
You're right.
I imagine Jerry Jones seems to be having less effect at the minute. So maybe he's focusing on that, shielding Kellen Mond from Jerry Jones a little bit. Maybe it's that kind of stuff.
It's an upgrade from post-flap.
Yeah, and exactly. He's just kind of he throws little bits into the offense. I'm sure he's like, "Oh, Kellen, have you thought about doing this?" Or Kellen, like, great scheming, but why don't you add this in? He's an experienced and different head for Kellen Moore to work under, and I like the dynamic of the coaching staff at the minute. I just really, really, really hope he works out how to manage the clock. And just sometimes just gets out of the way and lets stuff happen. But he's the head coach of a 5-1 team. Something's clearly working. I don't want it to change, but if it has to change, I'm keeping Kellen Moore over Mike McCarthy. That's my point. And for Cowboys fans out there who say I'm a fake fan because you're not allowed to criticize your own team, I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying Kellen Moore's.
I'll shit on my team if they have
Mike McCarthy. Right, go do that in a Cowboys group, right? And apparently you're not a real fan. It's ridiculous. Like, we're 5-1. There's nothing we can improve on. And it's like, yes, we can. Yes, we can. It's fine to improve.
Packer fans got mad at me too because I was saying how good they were, but there was places they could get better and don't look the same. And all of a sudden, I don't know football. So yeah,
it's fine. It's fine to improve. It's okay to improve. It's all right.
Well, as I channel my inner boomer, and we go to the Raiders versus the Broncos, they rallied around that. I don't know how long it could last. That's what I said. It could go either way. I'm glad that it went the way it did, though, because those players have dealt with enough shit in the last week or two that they did not bring on themselves. So it was really nice for them to get a win for their new coach to get a win, for the culture to get a win. And this is not on the field related, but Mike Mayock has stepped up, said the right thing, spoke clearly, gave explanations, and been the lightning rod that this team needed. Good shout out to Mike Mayock.
Yeah, and I didn't really watch this game. If I'm being perfectly honest, I was too busy shitting myself at the Cowboys the entire time. But and I haven't had time to go through all the 40 minutes. I've gone through most of the big games. But this isn't really an on the field chat that we're going to be talking about the Raiders Broncos, is what I was kind of thinking. I was thinking they've managed to find some juice from somewhere, from the highlight plays that I've seen. They've rallied around the issues that have been facing them. And did Nassib play? Is that his name? Carl Nassib?
I think he did, but like you, I was flipping between games.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty
sure I don't always
played.
remember everything that happens. You know, I remember the big plays, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he played, but Nassib has done really well throughout this to not get caught up in that kind of stuff, because obviously being an openly gay player and then your head coach being fired for using homophobic language has got to be really difficult. And I want to have a big shout out to him for the way that he's dealt with it. He took himself away for a day, which is sometimes what you just need to do, and then get on the field and play football and be a professional.
And let's be honest, there's a lot of people crushing him for taking that day off, right? I think, now I could be wrong, I am not him, but as looking back, I'm not so much sure he needed the mental day to reset. I think it'd have been rough being the only openly gay player to show up the day after this happens, because you're the one who's going to get riddled with questions, and that's not fair to him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not fair for him to have to answer those questions. You're right. And sometimes people let's get over this whole, I'm a man, I'm well-hard, I need to be there all the time. Some people you just need to take a break. You just need to take a break, and that's fine. It's okay. It's fine.
Hey,
and
Bulls fans, if you remember, your last championship came because Dennis Rodman took 10 days off in the middle of the season because he wasn't right in the head.
Yeah.
And he came back focused and played great.
Yeah. For the British viewers out there, they'll be aware that Ben Stokes, who's one of the best cricket players in the world, walked away from it all at the minute just because he needed some mental health time, and he's going to come back a lot better. He needed some time off. Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, those kind of people, all taking time off because they need to take time off, and that's okay. And Nassib took one day off, man. Let's not slate him for taking one mental health day off after your head coach, the guy who's backed you, got sacked for using homophobic language. So let's move on from that idea of thought, you boomers out there.
Yeah, old whites, but I'm old whites. I just don't fall into the same
I don't know. That's not a race. That's not a race thing. Homophobia and having a problem with mental health.
I meant the NFL old whites. It's run by old whites.
Yeah.
And that becomes
I know what you mean. I
didn't mean it to single out all old white baby boomers. I meant the NFL.
We got on
the
Real
hierarchy
Talk.
of the NFL is all old, stuffy white people, and it's slowly changing.
Yeah. We went Real Talk just then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, on to my upset pick of the week, though. And for a minute, I thought I was going to lose it. And the Titans, and I'm not going to lie, I know some people don't, but when you're a team with a winning record, I have a real problem with your 4th and 1 play by the goal line that got you beat when you could have went to overtime. So now you're 4. I get you're on the road, you want to get that win, but you're not a freaking 3-3 team. You're not a freaking 2-3 team. You're a team that should have kicked that field goal and played for overtime with Josh Allen and those weapons.
Yeah, I like the going for it every now and again. But in that game where it was a roller coaster, you're kind of in the ascendancy, then it's basically the winner of that game would have come down to the flip of a coin, and at least you have a 50-50 chance then. And as you say, they go to 4-2 coming out of a really difficult Titans game because they lost to a flip of a coin rather than not going for it. But Sean McDermott trusts his players to make that. And
I respect that.
Yeah, he trusts his players to make it. It's not a desperate and stupid call. He trusts his players to do that kind of thing, and I respect it a lot. And I think we were kind of surprised that Josh Allen didn't make it. I feel like that was the kind of play that he would make.
Yeah, but
slips.
That's what happens on 4th
Exactly.
and 1 to win or lose the game. Stupid shit happens. That's what drove me insane. But what I also hate about it is you did it against an AFC team in a weak-ass division who honestly could upset your playoff seeding if you finish with the same record.
Yeah. I would have just taken that on and just like gone with it. The only problem is the Titans were also moving it down the field at that point. So they probably just went, right, screw it. I see our chances of making this 4th and 1 better than 50-50. And our chances of our chances are better than 50-50. And the way the Titans are moving it down the field and the way that we're moving it down the field, the flip of a coin genuinely makes it 50-50. So
right. I trust Josh Allen.
Yeah, I understand the logic behind the play, but I would have taken the field goal there.
I felt like when they lined up for it, I don't know why, but I'm like, they're going to lose. They're going to lose for not kicking this field goal. And then everybody in the stadium, everybody in the world knew it was a quarterback sneak. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird. I don't know. If you make it, you're the hero, but because you didn't, you're the GOAT, you know?
I think it's almost like if I'm the Titans, I'm going for it on 4th and 1 because I've got Derrick Henry. Right. But if I'm the Bills, I'm hesitating a little bit more. Yeah, I'm hesitating a little bit more. But what a game. And this is the exact kind of game that the Titans do win. And I'm really upset with myself for not picking them and going what my normal thought is with the Titans is, if you can't defend the run, the Titans are going to absolutely hammer you. And the Bills' only weakness is their run defense and their run game. So it's a terrible matchup for the Bills. And Derrick Henry's break-off touchdown. I've never seen somebody that massive run that quickly.
So fast for his size.
What was that?
Ridiculous.
He's not even just fast for his size. He's just straight fast. That was so quick. I didn't realize
there's no guy that big should be that fast.
Of course. I didn't realize he was that fast until I saw him breaking away.
And he runs straight up and down.
Yeah.
So weird.
Like he didn't even need to juke anyone, didn't need to step anyone or anything like that. He was just so quick that nobody could get to him. Terrible angle by the safety. But I think the safety was surprised at how quick Derrick Henry is. I think that's all it was. Like he just got surprised at the burst of speed that guy has and the monster that guy is as well. Derrick Henry. He's the best running back in the league, in my personal opinion. Even if you take the receiving of the other running backs and all of that kind of stuff.
I always have him third, but it's one of those things where I'm not mad at you if you argue him any other way.
It depends on what you do in terms of like how much you value the receiving.
That's it. It depends on your state of football mind on which way you'd rather go.
Yeah, if we were to stick him in if it was the Cowboys, I'd rather have Derrick Henry because if I want to throw the ball, I'll just throw it to one of my stud wide receivers instead. And
I don't want to shit on Zeke, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I do like Zeke, but Derrick Henry's just a different monster, isn't he? Like Zeke's top 5, Henry's top 3. So you have like that 1, 2, 3 are a step above 4 and 5, which is probably what this season it's probably like.
And if you mix and match those top 5, I'm not going to be mad because it's almost like dealer's choice.
Yeah, of course. It depends what you like in a team. Derrick Henry doesn't get hit back on a 4th and 1 in their own 30-yard line, but also Derrick Henry doesn't have the same step that Zeke has. So it's an interesting comparison.
Well, double finger butt gun, Urban Meyer gets his first win across the pond, undefeated in England. And the game was exciting. I even said to you, for the shit teams they gave you, at least it was an exciting game. And we can talk about the game too, but before this is over, Maddie, you got to explain to us Americans on what the hell beer snake is. And we got to touch on this sitting versus standing at games.
Right. So have you seen this in UK Facebook groups or has this made it the news in the States.
I seen it in UK NFL groups and in like NFL Elite and NFL Savage that are worldwide groups. So not just the UK ones, a couple.
Right. Okay. Because that's what I was interested in hearing. So for everybody in the US that is listening to this podcast right now, lots of British people, again, rather upset with lots of other British people and Americans for how they behaved at the NFL game. And it largely centers around this thing called a beer snake, and they're calling it #SnakeGate is what it's
okay.
branded. Now, a beer snake is basically where you just get so many glasses, plastic cups, sorry, and you make a huge tower out of them that you have to hold it on your shoulder with other people down the snake as well. And then you take them all to the bar to be recycled or put in the bin, whatever. Because at places like cricket, you can actually get the reason it started is because at cricket, you pay a deposit on the cup. So if people can't be asked to take their cup back, you just make a huge snake and then you get the pounds back for the cup. But they've stopped doing that now because beer snakes can sometimes make people fall down the stairs. What kind of happens at the cricket is everybody's a bit closer together. There's only 15,000 people in a cricket stadium and stuff like that. So it's not as big a deal. What happened at the football, which I thought was really funny and I quite enjoyed and liked, and this is what I would personally do. I don't know whether I'd throw the cup, but I'd enjoy being underneath it and catching the cup because it's a plastic cup, for God's sake. And people are like, oh, it's hit my baby on the head and stuff. It's like, it's a plastic cup. It's not going to hurt. Chill out, right? And also, don't take your 3-year-old baby to an NFL game if you don't like people having fun around you. But people started throwing cups down from the top stands at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to add to the bottom stands beer snake that they had going on the bottom stands. That kind of went like it was a real big one, and people are getting really upset about it. And the people who are getting upset about it are the people where hate speaks louder than peace.
Okay.
The only people that are getting upset about it, because I genuinely think getting drunk and doing stupid shit at sports games is a British cultural thing to do. It's what I like to do. And there's a reason that you're not allowed to drink at soccer games. You're allowed to drink at soccer games, but you're not allowed to be watching the football whilst drinking at a soccer game. Sorry. Whereas in rugby, you're allowed to sit and drink while watching the game. But if you want to have a drink, you have to go away from watching the game to like the concourse bit, and you're not allowed to take it back into the stands because of hooliganism and Green Street, stuff like that. Right. So we do have a history of making poor decisions with alcohol at sports games. But if you go there, just have fun, just enjoy it. I don't understand why people are getting so upset. And the whole standing and sitting thing, that's ridiculous.
Well,
so the sitting thing that happens, it's an American and British cultural switch. The only reason it's an American and British cultural switch is because everybody stood at football games, and then it created massive crushes, pitch invasions. The Hillsborough disaster happened when 96 Liverpool fans died because they let too many people into the stadium. That's so there's seats now at every game, and stewards go around and force you to sit in them. So there's no standing. People getting upset with people standing in front of them. Just stand and have a good time.
This is what happened. I got to give a caveat because I got to look like Joey Jerkoff. Okay. So I see this pop up and it's like at a game, 2 American fans in front of us, ask them to sit down and they're like, we paid for our ticket. This is how we watch football. And the British are like, well, we sit. So then I asked, who the hell sits at a football game? And of course, I get to look like an asshole because the guy, I don't want to put his name out there, but he says to me, I have brain cancer. I can't stand at the game. I'm like, okay, that's a good reason. I feel like Joey Jerkoff, my bad. But in general, I didn't say this. I just told him, you're in my prayers, bro. Like you got a good excuse. You know what I mean? You're not the fan I'm talking about then.
If somebody stood in front of you, then they're an asshole. Like,
right, and you said, hey, bro, I can't stand because I'm sick, and they stayed, then they're definitely an asshole, and I agree.
Yeah.
But if you go to a U.S. game, like, you're standing. And so it was completely weird to me. But now that you explained, because I remember the story of all the dead people in the soccer game. I remember
the Hillsborough
stories of
disasters.
people getting crushed at like trying to get it out of games. And
so
I get it.
It's Liverpool football team, but it's not people sitting down because they're sensible or out of respect. It's because they were forced to sit down by football stewards for years. And now they're going back to standing again. Like in Sunderland, the non-family stand when they're watching the game, and they jump up and down and they sing and stuff like that. British sports fans, British American football fans, you need to get this right. You need to kind of get this into your thinking, right? So a lot of British American football fans are the people who stay up late, gaming and stuff like that, and a lot of them are not into the other mainstream sports in the UK. Like, they're not necessarily the kind of people you would be expecting to be sports fans. So they're a different breed of sports fans to the jock that would go watch American football and things like that. So it is a different, like, obviously I just love sports and that's why I love American football. And a majority of people do just love sports and that's why they love American football, and they love American football for it being American football. But there are other people that there is a big majority of people where they aren't traditional sports fans. So they just came to sit and watch a game of American football live. That's what they came to see, where they will probably go home now preferring just to watch it on the TV for the rest of their life. Right.
Well,
but sports fans would have enjoyed that atmosphere. Definitely.
You just made a great point, because now that you said this, as I read those groups in the comments, and right, because you're British, so we post a lot of our stuff in the British UK sites, right?
Thank you, NFL UK, for letting us post our videos in there, by the way.
Yes,
really
shout out. But you are right, though, because the people who were complaining were getting pushback from people who kept saying, it's just like at a cricket game. Shut up. Yeah. It's like a cricket. So you're right. The people who go to cricket saw it more of the way you were saying.
Aussies, Australians play cricket in stadiums as big as the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Bigger. 100,000 people can go to a game of cricket in Australia, right? And they make beer snakes just like we do at the cricket. It's exactly the same, where everybody's throwing cups at each other. Like, they're just not traditional sports fans. And you'll see it in the way that they respond, being like, oh, this is why nobody ever goes to watch football. Or the NFL are going to ban London games because you guys are making it dangerous. The NFL don't give a shit about whether you're throwing cups down. They give a shit if are people attending the games and are they making money? Well, if sports fans have more fun, they will make more money. If sports fans are getting that drunk to make massive beer snakes and they're happy to pay £9 for a beer, £9 for a beer, by the way, is expensive in London. And for people who don't know anything about London, there's like London prices, and then there's the rest of the UK prices underneath that. Like, London prices are crazy. So £9 for a pint is an expensive thing to do. And the NFL will be getting cuts of that, no doubt. So it's like they're making money from people having fun. And if the UK get a team, you better believe it's going to be more people that want to make massive beer snakes and throw cups about than people who want to sit down and watch a live game of NFL. Like, that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I get up for football. I missed like the first 12 minutes of that London game because I overslept. But that was a game that was definitely worth getting up for, even though I thought it was going to be crap because it was the Dolphins-Jags.
Yeah, and it looked like a lot of fun as well. It looked like a lot of fun was had by a lot of people. And people just need to remember with Facebook groups a lot of the time and stuff like this to kind of take it with a grain of salt, because hate speaks louder than people just being happy, you know? Like, hate speaks louder than people just being content with the way their day went, you know? So people just need to remember that when they're looking at Facebook groups.
The negative minority is always louder than the positive majority.
Yeah, exactly. And people just need to remember that. So the majority of people had an absolutely cracking time, really enjoyed themselves. British sports fans are a lot of fun. I was saying this to Jay, right? if the Vikings come and play in London and he isn't there, I'll genuinely be upset because it would be a great atmosphere for you to come and watch football in. It's a different kind of vibe to what football will be like in the States. Because it's weird because everybody's wearing the jersey of their own team and then just deciding who to support in the game.
Well, I don't know if I'm wrong, correct me, guys, but I really believe the Vikings have only played one London game. It was against the Steelers, and we beat them. So I think we're undefeated on UK soil also.
Yeah, as much as American tourists are irritating, I mean, love you all, but as much as you're irritating, in the same way that British tourists are irritating to everybody else as well, where you do stuff like if somebody says, hey, can you sit down? In the UK, we sit when we watch football, and you go, no, this is how I do it in America. Like,
right.
But come over and watch a game of American football in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is a laugh. It's good fun. And you get to see kind of a different love for American football than in the States, where you've got to remember people who like American football, like me, who are British, I had to stay up till 1 a.m. to finish off watching the Cowboys game the other night. So just bear that in mind. Like, British American football fans are by nature hardcore.
Well, no, I texted you last night after the game, and then I was like, oh shit, he's in bed.
I literally watched that game and like crashed out asleep from exhaustion from the game and exhaustion of the day. I had to wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning to go to work. But honestly, people like British American football fans, like, hats off to all of you. You're great crack. There's a game in Germany next year, and that would be very exciting. American football in Germany is massive. The new European American Football League is basically all just German teams. I might go watch that. I might go watch a game of European stuff and live stream it to you or something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I you know me, I'll watch football. I don't care if it's high school, Pop Warner, college. Like, I drive my wife insane, but I think that the more, okay, this is going to be a weird caveat, but the more UK games, the better it is for the NFL, as long as it's not the Vikings, because I don't want them traveling that many. As long as it's not a Vikings home game. Let me rephrase that. I don't mind going for an away game. I don't want you taking away a home game from US Bank Stadium, but that's just because I want to go to the playoffs. I want the extra win. I know what the fans do for it, so it's selfish.
Yeah, there's certain teams that make a lot of sense to have their home games here in London. So
yeah,
the Jags, it makes a lot of sense to have their home games. The Texans would make sense to have their home games at the minute. Like, I don't mind them picking just the garbage teams, to be perfectly honest, and then picking other garbage teams, because then at least it makes a game of it.
I heard a rumor, and I don't know. I read a rumor because I didn't hear it, but I don't know how true it is. But there was talks about having a London playoff game in 2025.
Yeah, I like a neutral. Like, let's do the wild card teams or something play each other to get into, like, something like that. Like, I don't want to change things too much, but
right, but I think the NFL sees that Euro money and is like, hey, let's send a playoff game over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's sterling money when it's the UK. We don't use euros, but I know what you mean.
Oh, you don't use euros?
Money. We don't use euros, no. We have our own pounds.
Oh, that's right.
We're not part of the European Union anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Fucking now I just got a freaking UK civics lesson. All right, guys, I think we hit it. It was a great week in football. I was just blown away by the excitement of the games.
That was a fantastic week.
And both of us get a week to breathe without having to worry next week.
Yeah, but now I'm shitting it because we play you guys after the bye, and I need to think of the forfeit for you when you lose. So,
you mean those push-ups you're going to be doing right on camera?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can make you drink some hot sauce or something like that.
Yeah, I don't even eat hot sauce, so good luck on that one. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.